What's up, guys? Back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to weld titanium. I'm going to be showing you guys some of the finer points, some of the differences between stainless steel and aluminum and welding titanium, how it is kind of unique. So this video will only be on prep and welding, the actual prep and welding of the titanium. The reason for this, the reason we're not going to include any previous steps or information is because I've already made a full series on how to weld stainless steel. And a lot of those steps and a lot of that information carries over from that to what we're doing here today. So if you're looking for any of that information leading up to this, how to set up your machine, how to purge, stuff like that, go to my channel, click on playlists, click on the how to weld playlist, and you'll find all of those videos in my stainless steel series, as well as some others that are great for learning how to TIG weld. So if you need any of that other information, check out my how to weld playlist. But for today, we're focused on prep and the actual welding of titanium. So the first difference between welding stainless steel and welding titanium is prep. You'll see in my stainless steel videos, specifically the how to prep stainless steel for welding video, you'll see that I always wire brush stainless steel. With titanium, that's different. I don't always. Actually, I almost never wire brush titanium. And the first reason for that is that you can see here on this scrap piece and on this scrap piece that this is anodized blue. And actually on the video it looks pretty dull, but it's a very bright blue color in person. And this coating, the oxidation, is pretty fragile. So a wire brush, taking it across the joint, would destroy this finish, and the weld wouldn't be wide enough to cover that area of scratches. Same thing with polished. You're gonna mess up the finish, and you don't want that. Plus, the other reason I don't usually have to wire brush it is that most of my titanium comes ready to weld. So I just take it out of the package, give it a quick wipe with acetone, and I tack it up, and I'm good to go. So differs a little bit from stainless steel there. And it's a little less prep in most cases, so that's nice. So as I said, most of my titanium pipe and pie cuts come ready to weld. I just wipe them down with acetone. I check the edges for any big pieces of rag or hairs or anything like that, and I get that out of there before I tack it up so that doesn't get trapped in my weld joint. Now the other scenario is when I'm cutting titanium pipe, and then my prep becomes a little more. When I cut it on the bandsaw, I use the same blade. I use the same blade that I use with stainless steel. I use the same blade that I'll use on aluminum. And you guys may say, well, wait, aren't you supposed to change blades just like with sandpaper or a wire brush so that you don't cross-contaminate the material? And you're actually 100% right. But there's a few reasons why in this situation I just use the same blade. The first reason is that changing a bandsaw blade every single time I switch between materials would be a pretty big hassle, especially since I do some projects that are stainless steel and titanium, stainless steel and aluminum. To switch between a different blade for each material, especially when I'm working with both two materials at one time, would be a huge hassle and take a ton of time, and it would just be really annoying, and I think you guys could imagine that. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that I figure, unlike abrasives, a bandsaw blade is not as likely to trap, hold, and transfer pieces of metal from whatever you've been cutting. So yes, it may have little bits in the teeth, but the way I see it is that it's less likely to take those materials and embed them and hold on to them when you cut your next material, like an abrasive, like a belt sander, belt sanding belt would do. And the third reason is that I think even if I did change the blade every time, it would be pointless, because there is so much grit and metal shavings and lubricant, whether you use lubricant or not on your bandsaw, or I guess coolant. There's so much stuff up inside the bandsaw, in every bandsaw, on the wheels for the blade, on the guards, anywhere that it can sit. And I think that even if I did change the blade, it would pick up those contaminants and put them into my material no matter what. So you might ask, how do I prevent contamination from bandsaw cuts then? Well, it's pretty simple, and it's the same way that I do it on stainless steel and also aluminum. You take a file. This one is for aluminum, and you can see the handle's rusty, but the actual file itself is clean. I bought this brand new. I didn't grab one randomly out of the shop. I bought this brand new, and it only gets used on aluminum. And I'm not going to use it on my titanium right now, but you just go across your cut joint like this, and it will take that first layer off and remove any contaminants that you may have in there from whether it be cutting with a bandsaw or facing on a belt sander, or cutting with some abrasive. This is a good way to remove that contamination. Whether you have any or not, you just want to play it safe and file those edges. That being said, the ideal solution would definitely be to have a bandsaw for stainless, a bandsaw for aluminum, and a bandsaw for titanium, which is something I would love to do as my business grows, and something I plan on doing with every piece of equipment that I use for prepping pipe. Have a belt sander for each material, a bandsaw for each material, and anything else that I may use, have that dedicated to each material. So that's really all I do to prep titanium. If it's coming right out of the bag, it's not getting cut, just wipe it down with acetone and tack it up. If it does get cut, I file the edges, wipe it with acetone, and I tack it up. It's pretty simple, and yeah, it always comes out very clean and very nice. So that's what I would suggest for you guys. If you find any other ways of that people say you should prep titanium, definitely drop it down in the comments, and I'd love to hear it. Now, something I have noticed with titanium is that it seems to handle small amounts of foreign object contamination better than stainless steel does, and far better than aluminum does. By that I mean any little bit of something that gets into your weld joint seems to be handled and seems to not cause as much of a reaction with titanium as it does with stainless steel. You'll see that arc wander, the puddle wander, and aluminum, when it gets really bad, you can't even get it to weld. But titanium I haven't noticed much of an issue with. although I say that, titanium and any metal that you're welding should always be cleaned to the best of your ability for the best results. I'm just telling you guys what I have seen and what I have learned. Large amounts of contamination will still have an effect, a negative effect on your titanium welds. So clean your material. There's no excuse not to. You'll have a much better time welding. So although titanium may handle foreign object contamination a little better than other metals, it has a weakness, and that weakness is oxygen. Titanium requires even more shielding than stainless steel because it is much more sensitive to our atmosphere, being oxygen and nitrogen, which it can absorb both of, and that can cause unwanted color. Even further than unwanted color, contamination from atmosphere with titanium can cause brittleness, can cause white, flaky oxidation, and very ugly, gray, somewhat rainbow, but not the cool kind of rainbow like stainless steel, but those types of oxidation you will see when you get oxygen exposure at way too high of a temperature. So you'll see your golds, your blues, your purples, and then when it gets extreme, you'll see it's a really strange thing. You'll have to see it for yourself. It's like a prismatic, gray, dull, slightly rainbowy color, and then even worse, you'll see the white, flaky, ashy kind of stuff on the surface of your pipe, and neither of those are good. So colors on titanium are not held in the same regard in the automotive industry as they are in some other industries. For example, in the aerospace industry, in some cases, any color at all is unacceptable. Whereas in the automotive industry, you get things like this, and this is created by anodizing, but people will purposely put color on the titanium using anodizing, with heat, during welding, by purposefully outrunning your gas coverage and exposing it to oxygen, purely for the aesthetic aspect of it. So how do I provide that extra gas coverage when welding titanium? Well, I use a larger cup, and that's basically the only thing. So this is the cup. This is a BBW 16 that I use for stainless, and the cup that I use for titanium is this one. This cup is very appropriately named the Monster 24, and as you can see, it is a hell of a lot bigger than this 16 cup. So that is how I shield my stainless. The next upgrade is a trailing shield, which is really probably the best way, but I find that this works well. You still have to be a little careful, but it gives you a huge advantage. It gives you the ability to run much longer beads, and it's super nice. I don't make any money off this, but if you guys want it, you can find it on Amazon. Search Monster 24 TIG welding cup or something like that, and you should be able to find it. They come in 2 packs because they're big and fragile. Huge shout out to Eddie at Autopilot Exotics for putting me on this cup. I absolutely love it. I know he loves it, and it's a great thing. So big thanks to Eddie. This cup is kind of in a class of its own. If you watch my, I believe it's torch setup video in my How to Weld Stainless Steel video series, I set some basic rules of thumb about how to set gas flow based on your stick out and your cup size. This thing doesn't follow those rules. This is so large that if you were to base your gas flow off of this diameter, it would be insane. So what I do is I run about 40-45 CFH through this cup, about 3/4 of an inch or less, maybe a little more, sometimes it depends, of stick out. And it's a good idea to keep it nice, as close as you can to what you're welding, as long as you can still see. And you guys will see that later in the video when I actually weld some titanium. Yeah, so 40 CFH through this thing, 40-45, about 3/4 inch of stick out, and it's just great. You can move a lot further, like a lot further than you would be able to with a cup like this. All right, so another big difference with titanium is tacking. This is a piece that I had tacked and ended up switching it out, but titanium doesn't like to flow together as much as stainless does, especially over very small gaps. So when you tack something up with titanium, you want to have super tight fitment, like super tight, like even that much of a gap, probably the titanium would not want to tack without filler. You need, like you can see right here where that little where that tack would be, how it's dipped in right at the center of the tack. I can tell you just from looking at it, that is a spot where I didn't have absolutely perfect fit up, and I couldn't get it to tack, which will happen a lot like that. Will happen a lot to you, and it's very frustrating, but the way to conquer that is to have just amazing fit up. This brings me to our next point. Another difference with titanium is that you will experience your fair share of blowouts. You will be welding along and everything will look fine, and all of a sudden the material will fall out from underneath you, and it's gonna happen. That is just yet another reason to have great fit up. Alright, so I'm gonna tack these up and I'm gonna show you guys. I'm sure we're gonna have some of the struggles with tacking with just these scrap pieces, so I'll show you guys that. And I tack these up obviously without a purge on, so you want to be very careful to make quick tacks and not penetrate through. You'll always get a tiny bit of like white looking, very light white on the inside when tacking, as long as it's not flaking off. When you run over it with the bead, it'll still penetrate, but if you get it so that it's flaking, you'll either want to scrape that off, or you could try running over it, but a lot of the times when you run over it, it won't penetrate in that spot. Especially if it's really bad, sometimes you can't scrape it off. So yeah, I'll get you guys a little closer and you can watch me tack this stuff up. So we've got everything wiped down, including our filler rod. You want to be extra careful to make sure you're lined up side to side, front to back, and then make sure there's no gaps. On these, there are some slight gaps, which is good though, because that'll show you the struggles with titanium and bridging gaps. So let's get started. Now you can see how quick of a tack I made, and that's just down on the pedal and back up. And there's your tack. The top one you see there. Very small, very light. And and that's how you want them, because you're going to do a lot, just like with stainless, about a tack every inch. So I'm going to put pressure down on this to close up any that it might have pulled if it's not level or whatever. Just put some pressure down and we'll hit another tack on the opposite side. Then it'll be locked in position and we can go around and do our tack every inch. Now you don't have to let the post flow run over the tack for very long, since it is not getting much heat into the part, but you can see there how silver that is. And also something else you'll experience if you ever weld anodized titanium is the anodized color disappears as you weld it. So we'll go around, do a tack every inch, and it burns back because of a slight gap. I'll show that to you guys. So you can see right here on this tack, that tack went in fine, but this one must have been an ever so slight gap. I couldn't even really tell by eye, and it just didn't want to join. So you'll experience that. Just add a slight dab of filler, but the best way to prevent that is just get very, very nice fit up. Alright, so now we've got it all tacked up. We're going to get a purge going, and you guys can see me weld this out. Alright, so we're all purged, and we're going to get started here. I'm running 62 amps, 20 pulses per second. That's a little different from the stainless. I run about 65 usually for butt joints, and it's pretty much the same procedure as stainless, except you're going to notice the puddle will be a bit wider. You just want to strike up, start, let it get up to size, and then add a dab, move forward, dab, move forward, dab, move forward, dab. And I like to, same on stainless, where my first puddle starts, once it's up to size and I dab, I move to the leading edge of that first puddle and do another dab, and then just repeat that. Move to the leading edge of the previous puddle to start your next puddle, and that'll keep you nice and consistent. So here in a couple areas where I didn't want to tack, I had to add some filler. When we run over those, we're gonna pause for a little extra time, let that flatten out, and then continue on. So that's actually a perfect example for you guys. You can see right here, bad fit up, and we had a blowout. So I'll show you right now how you can fix that. And this is very much a beginner's guide, things to expect, you know. This is gonna happen to you a lot, so, and I kind of expected it. It's good that I can show you how to fix it. So you can see here I just filled in the hole at lower amps, and now I'm gonna run back over it, and it won't flatten out completely, but it'll get a lot better. And this is just a good way to save a part that otherwise you'd have to throw away. So you can see there, feed's a little higher than the rest, but it's penetrated and it's doing good. So you can run over it again if you want. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. So we are just, as you can see, start up, let it get to size, dab, forward a little, dab, forward a little, dab, and just keep that motion going. With this cup, I like to do about 8 or 9 dabs. I'll start at 9 and then drop down to 8 if it's getting too hot, or I'll just tap again, let the post flow flow for a bit longer, and that'll keep you from getting colors in your weld. When you finish, you do your last dab. As you let off the pedal, move forward slowly, about 1 dab. As you're letting off, you'll see the puddle get skinnier, and then you can terminate the arc, and you should be left without a fisheye. So you can see there, I tapped the throttle again, the pedal, and that's just because I noticed it was looking a little hotter, the part's getting hotter, and I still even got a little color at the back end there. This is a cool trick with titanium. If you get some unwanted color, you can light back up on it, just very little amperage, don't even get a puddle going, and just wave it over that area where the color is, and it'll erase it almost to the point where you can never tell it was there. Before I mentioned when you're letting off and tapering off to travel forwards a little bit, you can also travel backwards about a puddle as you taper off, which, you know, less of a risk of going too far and getting color that you don't want. Alright guys, so this is how it came out. We got a little more color in there than I usually like to get, but that's not a problem at all. That's really up to you guys how you like it to look. There's another thing about titanium is it's super hard to get on camera so that you can see the actual dabs, but they are there. I'll drop some better photos, add some to the video, and you can see here at the end the small part getting hot. I got a little bit more color than the rest of the puddle, but like I said, that's fine. That's up to you guys. If you like that, you can do that. And take a look at the inside. Got very nice penetration. More so than you would have with a skinnier puddle, and that's why I prefer the wider puddle. Plus I think it looks real nice. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. I'll add some photos of some nicer beads that I've had in terms of color, and get you a better look at the dime pattern that you get with this strategy. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
If you catch me at the border, I got visas in my name. If you come around here, I'll make 'em all day. I fly like paper, get high like planes. If you catch me